Hello friends, welcome back to the tetrahedron chemistry classes. So guys, in today's class I am going to discuss another very important problem based on the coordination chemistry, right? And in this series my first question to my today's first question is, you can read the question, the magnetic moment values for the complexes, right? You have been given two complexes. First is your this cobalt, and in that case your cobalt ion is in +2 oxidation state, so you can put 2 positive over there. And then you have given the second complex, and in this particular complex your cobalt is again in +2 oxidation state. So you have to decide you have to calculate the magnetic moment for this one. Okay, so if you see this particular complex, I can write the formula here, right? You are having COCl6, this complex you are having 2 positive over there. Sorry, not 2 positive, sorry, 4 negative is there. Okay, and obviously it will have cobalt is in +2 oxidation state, and when cobalt is in +2 oxidation state, it's simply a 3d7 system. Okay, so it's a 3d7 system, and this Cl is what? It's a weak field ligand. It's a weak ligand. When it's a weak ligand, definitely the complex would be high spin complex. Okay, that would be your high spin complex. What is the meaning of the high spin complex? When the crystal field splitting occurs in the octahedral field, so you have to fill your 7 electrons in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So you are having total 3 unpaired electron. Okay, you are having 3 unpaired electrons. So for this for these 3 unpaired electrons, if you want to calculate the magnetic moment, that would be equals to mu under root of n into n plus 2. Okay, now if you put the value of n equals to 3 in the equation, then you will get 3 plus 2, 3 to 5, 5 is a 15, that means under root of 15, and if you solve this particular value, then it will give you 3.87. okay, of course the unit would be Bohr magneton. So this is the case for this your cobalt complex. Okay, for this particular one, check and see, this cannot be your answer, this cannot be your answer. Out of these two, one would be correct in that. Now you can go for your next question, next complex. Okay, and your next complex is given in that manner, which is CO CN5. So in that case, you can see the 5 cyanides are there along with this water ligand. Okay, and in that case, when you see this cyanide is the strong ligand, I am writing Sl for the strong one, and this is a weak ligand. So the number of the strong ligands are much higher than the number of the weak ligands, so it would be a low spin complex. Okay, so what is the meaning of the low spin complex? Again, you can see the cobalt is in +2 oxidation state if you do the crystal field splitting in it. So you have to fill 7 electron now in these available orbitals. How you can put the 7 electrons in it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and your 7th electron would be here. Okay, now if you apply the formula to calculate the magnetic moment, that means n into n plus 2. Okay, this will again give you what? Only one unpaired electron is there here, you can see. So you can write 1 into 1 plus 2, it's simply under root of 3, and under root of 3, it will give you somewhere around 1.73 Bohr magneton. So you can see the option C is looking the correct option in that case. So you can mark this option C as the correct option. So this is the first problem. Now moving to the next problem, what it says, spinal structures of these two spinels are given to you. So I have solved a problem based on this in my last lecture, but I am giving you a little trick here. Say for example, you are having, not trick actually, it's a clear cut concept. What happens in the normal spinal? And then what happens in the inverse spinel? You should know these things. See, in that case, your bi-positive ion that would go into the tetrahedral voids, okay, and your tri-positive ions, say B3 positive, they'll go to the octahedral voids. This is the case of the normal spinel, okay. And in that case, of course, the CFSE, crystal field stabilization energy, of your B3 positive ion, that means whatever the tri-positive ion would be there, they would be actually greater than the CFSE of A2 positive ion. Remember, both in octahedral fields, okay. So this is also in octahedral field, this is also in octahedral field, this is, you know. And if you invert this, right, so what you will get here in that case of inverse spinal, so you are A2 positive, it will go into the octahedral voids, and your B3 positive ions, it will go into the tetrahedral voids. If you calculate the CFSE, so definitely your CFSE of bi-positive ion in octahedral field, okay, would be greater than CFSE of tri-positive ions, both in octahedral fields, okay. These things you should remember actually, right. So if you apply the same formula, so for normal spinal, you can give this formula for normal spinal. I can write here A in the tetrahedral voids, okay, and your B2, they would be in the octahedral voids, and of course here oxide ions would be there. This is how you can check. Now you can go for this particular example. You are having COFe2O4. In that case, you can see basically this CO2 positive. In that case, you know, the first ion actually which is given here, it is 2 positive. This is cobalt 2 positive, and it is quite stable in the octahedral environment. Okay, it is stable in the octahedral environment. So your bi-positive is going into the octahedral environment, and you see that it is bi-positive is going into the CO2 positive is going into the octahedral environment. So it is a inverse spinal. So this is your inverse spinal. Now moving to the next one, say in that case, if you check here, this is actually the very special example, and this is actually exception one. This is hercyanite. This spinal is hercyanite. In that spinal, you see here, see if you compare your Fe2 positive, this is 2 positive, and aluminium is your 3 positive, okay. So in that case, you see in the last lecture also I told you this Al3 positive has a special affinity for the octahedral side. So it is going into the octahedral side. Your tri-positive is going into the octahedral side. When tri-positive is going into the octahedral side, you can see here, so it should be a normal spinal. So this harnesite is a normal spinal, okay. So this is how you can solve the problem. The first one is your inverse, second one is your normal spinal. So option B is actually looking the correct spinal. In that case, you can solve. But this harnesite is a very this example is a very famous example. It is an exception one, okay. Very important one. Now moving to the next problem, what it says, the incorrect statement about the polydiamide. So guys, if you see, this question is again based on this is based on the memory. This is memory based question. So to solve this question, actually you need to know the structure of your polydiamide spinal, okay. It's a kind of the spinal, okay, or let's say it's a mineral actually, right. And this mineral is having the formula in which your nickel is present in 2 positive ion, and also your 2 nickels are there, right. It is in 3 positive ion, and it's a sulfide. It's a sulfide mineral. So first you check the first statement. It is a sulfide based spinal, true, okay. Nickel 3 ion is not stable in the sulfide environment. This is false, okay. This is false. Why? You see, nickel 3 positive ion is here, and it is forming this polydiamide in the sulfide case. That means it is stable, that's why it is forming this particular compound. So second statement is actually your false, and it is the correct answer in that case. Now if you want to move further, nickel exists in both +2 +3. Yes, it is true. In polydiamide, nickel 2 positive, nickel 3 positive are there. It is an EPR active. Definitely it is an EPR active. When you see if you are having the nickel 3 positive, right, you are nickel 3 positive, it's a 3d7 system. And when you have the 3d7 system, so it will have the unpaired electron, and all the species which are having the unpaired electron, they are EPR active. Okay, so this is EPR active. This is also true. So this one is also true. So only incorrect answer is the option number 2. So you can mark this option B as the correct option, but it's an important problem. Okay, now moving to the next one. The calculated magnetic moment of this particular complex, which is given here, is this one, which is different from the experimental. Okay, in that case the experimental magnetic moment is 4.40 Bohr magneton, but calculated magnetic moment based on your say number of the unpaired electrons. So it is having, actually you see the 3 unpaired electron. This complex is having 3 unpaired electron. Okay, see, in that case cobalt is in +2 oxidation state, and when cobalt is in +2 oxidation state, that means it is having the 3d7 system. Okay, so it's a 3d7 system, and it's a weak field ligand. And in the weak field ligand, if you fill the electrons, weak field 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1, 2, 3 and 3 unpaired electrons are there, which results in the 3.87 Bohr magneton. I have calculated this in my first example. Okay, first problem I have solved this particular one. And then experimental moment value 4.40, it is found at 4.40. So remember one point: whenever your experimental magnetic moment is higher than the calculated one, it's simply due to the contribution of the orbital magnetic moment. So you can blindly mark in that case the option number C as the correct option, contribution of the orbital magnetic moment. It is something very, very important. Okay, see, T2G is unsymmetrically filled, and definitely this unsymmetrically filled orbital motion will contribute to the magnetic moment, and this will give you the higher magnetic moment than 3.87. Okay, now moving to the next problem. The molar, again this problem is based on your memory. If you have learned the magnetic properties of the complexes in pretty much detail, only then you will be able to answer this one. Okay, now you see what the question is asking actually. The molar magnetic susceptibility value for the larger multiplate. It is saying that for the larger multiplate, width compared to the KT is given by the equation. So this question is memory based, and I am telling you, see, whenever your multiplate width is greater, right, when it is greater, which is given here, okay, in that case actually the L and S coupling, LS coupling would be very, very strong. These vectors actually very, very strongly interact. Actually the interaction between L and S will be very, very strong, and when this happens, when the strong coupling between this L and S occurs, then your J actually, right, this rotational quantum number becomes very, very significant. Okay, and you see the J becomes very good quantum number in that case, and your quantum numbers L and S actually they will not dictate the ultimate magnetic properties. So magnetic properties would be decided by the J value, not actually by LS, because they when the multiplate width is greater, they are strongly coupled to produce this quantum number, and this will decide the magnetic property. Okay, and in that case actually what will happen, actually the molar magnetic susceptibility value in that case would be given by this particular this particular formula. Molar magnetic susceptibility, that is Xm or the chi-m, whatever you want to say, that would be equals to n mu square J divided by 3 of KT. But again this problem is based on your memory. Now moving to the next problem. The spectroscopic term for symbols titanium 3 positive ion and chromium 3 positive ion. See guys, this problem you can see here, I can see this is titanium 3 positive, and this titanium 3 positive simply means it's a 3D 1 system. Okay, it's a 3D 1 system. So how you can fill the electrons in it? 1, 2, 3, and say this is 5 1, and this is 1 electron which is present here, and you know the value of this is +2, this is +1 0 -1 -2. This goes in that manner actually, right? And only one unpaired electron is there. That means simply you can have your spin of half. Okay, and you know your electron, see I can write here S P D F. So L value 0 1 2 3. This goes in that manner actually. So when see your L value actually is 2 in that case actually, right? L value in that case is 2, you can see here. Okay, so it is in the d orbital. So it simply means your capital L value is 2. Now you have the two values, value number 1 the spin, value number 1 2 is L. Now you want to know the J value, and when this happens, you know this this d orbital is less than half filled. So in that case actually J value would be calculated by L minus S. Okay, so your L value is actually 2. Okay, and you are minus this value from this one, so this is actually giving you the 3/2. So J value is 3/2. Now if you want to calculate the term symbol, okay, so what basically the term symbol is that spin part which is 2s plus 1, okay, and the value of L and the value of J. So 2s plus 1, if you see here in that case the spin, if you want to calculate the spin for this one, so how you can calculate? S is equals to 2s plus 1, 2 into half plus 1, that will give you 2, 2 gets cancelled, so you will have the value of the 2. So it simply means 2, and L value is 2, so it is in D, so you can write D here, and J value is 3/2, so you can write 3/2. So for this titanium ion the value is actually 2 D 3/2. Check the option which is the correct one. So you can see the option D, it is given here, so you can blindly mark this as the correct option, and there is no need to calculate for this one, but if you want to calculate for this one also, so you can calculate for this ion also. You are having, say in that case your chromium in 3 positive state, and when chromium is in 3 positive state, it simply means it's a 3d3 system. It's a 3d3 system, and if you put 3 electrons in it, so this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and I already told you this is +2, this is +1, and this is the 0. Okay, so L value in that case you can see here +2 +1 +0, that will give you the 3. So whenever this L value is 3, it belongs to the L value of F. You can see here this is F. Okay, so F is given here, and your spin you can see it is 3/2, because 3 unpaired electrons are there, 1 2 3, and they are having 1/2, so basically it's 3/2. Okay, and if you want to calculate the J value, so again you can find that J value, L minus S, and this will give you your 3 minus 3/2, right, and this 3 minus 3/2 will give you again the 3/2. Okay, so in that case you can see the value if you apply this formula again here, this particular one. So your spin would be in that case, how you can write 2s plus 1 capital S equals to, so 2 into 3/2 plus 1, that is equals to 4. So your spin is 4, electron is present in F orbital, you can see here, right, F1, and 3/2 is the this particular J value. So this is the symbol. You can see, you can calculate for this one also, but nonetheless it's a very important problem, good problem to solve. Now moving to the next problem, what it says that is the state the magnetism of your two complexes, right? So guys, this is a very simple problem. In that case you can see the iron is in +2 oxidation state, and in that case again iron is in +3 oxidation state, but you know this NO2 is a strong ligand. It's a strong ligand. When it is a strong ligand, that means it is a low spin complex, and when it is a low spin complex, that means it should be, low spin complex are diamagnetic in nature, because all the spins are paired in that case, so it's a diamagnetic. Okay, So you can check the option. This cannot be correct answer B. This cannot be correct answer C. You can opt from A, out of A and D. Now moving for this one, this fluoride is the weak ligand, okay, and when this is a weak ligand, so it's a high spin complex, and high spin complexes actually they are having the unpaired electrons, so they are paramagnetic in nature. So second complex is paramagnetic. So you can see the option A is looking the correct answer in that case. So you can mark the option A as the correct option. Now moving to the next problem, what it says that you see for water gas shift reaction, the spinel based catalyst. Again, see this guys, this problem is based on your memory. If this question is in your memory and you have actually learned this theory several times, only then you can you will be able to solve this particular one. So in that case, see basically iron chromite in that case, right? In that case, your iron chromite, right? More specifically, iron 2 chromite. Okay. This is actually the catalyst, okay, which this actually catalyst is used in the synthesis of the hydrogen from the reaction between the carbon monoxide and the water vapor. So again, you can see, you can blindly mark the option number C. If you have learned, if you have read this question several times, only then only then you will be able to solve this one. Now moving to the next problem, what it says: addition of orbital magnetic moment to spin moment is possible. Okay, see, though I have solved a problem based on this in my earlier lecture. So basically, if you are calculating the magnetic moment, okay, and you are having the spin only moment, that is the value which comes from the mu by using the formula that under root n into n plus 2. Okay, this, you know, this would be calculated as under root n into n plus 2. Okay, so when your orbital magnetic moment will contribute, okay, and will add to this value, what are the conditions required for this one? Okay, so you can blindly mark, you can see option D. See, unrestricted movement of the electron is allowed from one orbital to orbital. Yes, it's true. When electrons are free to move from here to there, then definitely they will add to the magnetic spin only magnetic moment. Okay, orbitals are degenerate. This is something very, very important. This is also true. Okay, when orbitals are having the same energy, then the electrons can move very freely here to there and they can contribute to the spin movement. Again, it is true. Orbitals are of the same shape. Definitely when the shapes are same, the quite good overlap would be there, and due to this overlap, your electrons can move from here to there. This is also correct, right? So all options are true actually in that case. When all are true in that case, that means option D is the correct answer. Now moving to the next problem, what it says that that is here the spin only and spin plus orbital moment. See guys, again it's a very, very simple problem. Okay, I can solve this particular problem. Say for example, first of all, it is asking the spin only formula. Spin only formula I have just given you. It will give you under root n into n plus 2, and your chromium is in +3 oxidation state. It simply means it's a 3d3 system, and 3d3 system means it is having 3 unpaired electrons. 3 unpaired electrons. Okay, that mean 3 into 3 plus 2, that mean under root of 15, and under root of 15 will give you 3.87 Bohr magneton. Okay, so your this option cannot be correct and this option cannot be correct, so you have to select between the A and the D. So now your orbital contribution would be there. So how actually the orbital contribution would be there in that case? So whenever the orbital contribution, you are looking for your orbital contribution, so simply you can write mu L plus S. S you are simply this spin, okay, and L is actually your orbital contribution. So for this you will use this particular formula, under root of L into L plus 1, okay, and this should be your 4s plus 1. Okay, so 4s into s plus 1. So this is the formula, right, which goes in that direction. So if you solve that particular problem, so basically it is your this system. this is plus 2, this is plus 1, this is 0, okay, and this is minus 1, minus 2, and you are having 3 electrons in it. So you can place 3 electrons, 1, 2, 3. So your L value, if you want to calculate, that is 2 plus 1 plus 0 equals to 3, and this value, L value is 3, so you can write 3 here actually, right? So if you want to write the 3 here, so how you put those values in that case? So you can write in that manner, 3 multiplied by 3 plus 1, there is no problem, plus 4, then your spin, you see 3 unpaired electrons are there, so spin would be 3 by 2 in that case, okay. So you can write 4, okay. So you can write 4 into 3 by 2 and 3 by 2 plus 1. So I am not going to solve a mathematical step in it. So if you solve this value, this will give you value somewhere around 5.20 Bohr magneton, okay. When this, you can check the option 3.87 and 5.20. So option A is looking correct option, so you can mark this one, and this is the wrong one, okay. Now moving to the next problem, what it says, the strong field nature of CO over cyanide is X. Okay guys, this problem is quite simple, right? And this is again a theoretical problem. You can blindly mark LFT, ligand field theory. So VBT you have studied, it deals with the hybridization of the complexes, so it is not giving this idea why the CO is actually strong field than your cyanide. Similarly, molecular orbital is something different. Crystal field, you know, so you may have the confusion between B and C, but you have to select the C. So guys, see, according to what happens in the ligand field theory, actually this ligand field theory actually explains the ligands of the nature right, through their orbital symmetry, and what happens through overlapping integral approach. See, both carbonyl and cyanide, they are good pi acceptors, you know, whether this one or this one, they are very good pi acceptor, okay. Why they are pi acceptor? You know, carbon triple bond oxygen, and you know they are having actually what, pi antibonding, pi empty antibonding molecular orbital. They can accept the electron from the metal from it, so they are actually they can form the back bonding from the metal actually, okay. They are the acceptor one. But you see, if you compare your carbon and nitrogen, as in case of the cyanide, okay, they are very closer in energy. Their energy is very similar, closer in energy, I can write for this one, okay. And if you see carbon and oxygen, there is very vast electronegativity difference. Electronegativity difference. Sorry, my handwriting. Sorry for my handwriting. It is electronegativity difference. Electronegativity difference is very vast in that case. When this happens actually, so there is no more. See, there is more mixing. No more actually. There is more mixing of your pi antibonding orbital with cyanide, because they are the closer in energy actually. When they are very, the mixing is very in that case very high. So what happens actually, metal d orbitals donates the electron density towards the ligand, and there is less mixing. That means less mixing means a weaker pi bond between the metal and the cyanide, right, when compared to this one. So this is the theoretical idea about this one, okay. So you can learn the theoretical theory, but you can see this actually ligand field theory gives this idea actually, okay. Now moving to the next problem. Gauss balance can directly measure, okay. Now this again, it's a very simple problem based on your memory. If you have read this magnetic susceptibility experiment, only then you will be answer to this one. So Gauss balance actually directly determines the gram magnetic susceptibility, okay. Now moving to the next problem, what it says, among the following most strong sigma donor ligand, okay guys. So this is again, you see the very simple problem, and option C is the correct option in that case. Why option C is the correct option? You can see in that case, right. See, it is positive, that means electron deficient, so they cannot donate electron very much strongly, okay, because they are electron deficient. But you see, this is having the negative charge, and these two are also having the negative charge. But you see the chlorine is more electronegative and your nitrogen is also more electronegative. So they are very reluctant to release their electrons for donation actually, right? So they cannot be the very good donor. So what option you left? You were left with the option 3 only, because these two, they are having the lone pairs actually. So they cannot be donated very much easily, right? So this is how you can answer this particular problem. Again, see, it's a theoretical problem and this is the intuition based question. You can solve such questions by your intuition, and your intuition comes from the experience by solving the more and more problems and by reading the problems again and again, different kinds of the problems again and again. Now moving to the next problem, what it says. Okay, let me reorient this. Okay, in that case, the question says the pi acceptor ligand which is separation is considered as delta O. See guys, again this problem is based on your ligand field theory. If you haven't learned the ligand field theory in the detail, I have made a detailed 4 lecture on the ligand field theory. You can go there and learn how you can after learning that ligand field theory, you will be able to solve such kind of the problems. Okay, so in that case actually what happens, right? See, if you are for the pi acceptor ligands, right, the ligands vacant pi orbitals have higher energy in comparison to the metal T2G orbital. So metal T2G orbital, say for example, I am solving this one. You are having the metal, right, Mn positive I am writing, and it is having the T2G orbital. Okay, in that case, right, and your pi acceptor ligands, they will actually have very high energy. So if you see the energy is going in that manner, so this is the energy for the T2G orbital, and for pi acceptor ligands, energy is somewhere here. So this energy difference is quite large energy difference. Okay, so consequently what happens, the metal T2G orbital, right, they are which are lowered in energy, they are lowered in energy after the formation of the pi bond. So once they form the pi bond, so their energy actually goes down. Okay, so in that case your delta O will have the greater value in that case. Okay, and when delta O is having the greater value, that means it simply implies that the transfer is taking from transition is actually separation is given by the T2G to EG anti-bonding. So option B is looking correct option in that case. Okay, so see, if you see, once again you can listen properly. For a pi acceptor ligands, the ligands vacant pi orbitals have very high energy in comparison to the metal T2G orbital. Consequently what happens, the metal T2G orbitals are lowered in energy after the formation of the pi bond only, and when this happens actually delta O is now greater in the value, and when delta O is greater in the value, it corresponds to the this kind of transition T2G from EG, right? So electron will transfer from here to here. Okay, this is the option, but this is a theoretical question. Now moving to the next problem. Problem number 7, the temperature below which spins are aligned anti-parallel in the domain is known as, it's simply you see when you solve this particular problem, it's a Neil point actually. So I can write here Neil point. I hope you know what is the Neil point. I have made the extensive lecture on the magnetic properties of the complexes also. You can find the Neil point there actually. Okay, so see, you can see if I want to draw a diagram from here, so it gives this kind of thing. See, this is your molar magnetic susceptibility. Okay, and this temperature is the Neil temperature, which I am writing as the Tn, right, and this correspond to here, and it is actually for anti-ferromagnetic substance, anti-ferromagnets. Okay, so the anti-ferromagnetic compound shows the paramagnetic properties above the Neil point. Okay, so whenever you have the anti-ferromagnetic compound, anti-ferromagnetic complexes, okay, and there if actually Neil point crossed, if they cross the Neil point, then they show the magnetic paramagnetism. So here temperature actually. temperature in Kelvin scale. So the antiferromagnetic compound shows the magnetic properties above the needle point. So your option D is looking in that case the correct answer. You can mark this one. Now moving to the next problem. For a complex with pi donor ligands, increased pi donation stabilizes. So again you guys see this problem is a theoretical problem, okay, and you can simply see this one. I have solved this particular problem in my last lecture, in my, see, if I go back further, you can see here I have explained, right? So T2G when actually gives the electron to, they lower their energy. So actually this question is a more or less same kind of the question, and option A. So for a complex with pi donor ligands, the increased pi donation stabilizes the T2G level. Okay, now moving to the next problem. Again, this value is based on your learning capacity, or based on your memory actually, right? And it's a very simple problem. Your mu B values can be calculated by molar magnetic susceptibility values actually, right? So basically it's a momentum and your magnetic susceptibility, how the magnetic susceptibility and the magnetic movement can be correlated. It's simply a Curie's equation basically. It's simply a Curie's equation. So if you know the relation between the Curie, if you know the Curie relation, then you will be able to answer that it is the part 1 actually, right? This is your Curie's equation. Again, see, it depends on your memory. Now moving to the next problem. Types of the orbital might be seen in n double bond Cr2 bond of a Schiff base ligand. Okay, it is having everything actually, right? This is having everything. It is a double bond. You consider one double bond as sigma and other double bond as pi, and nitrogen is there, so lone pair is there. So lone pair, pi bond, sigma bond, all are there. It obviously your correct option is your option number C. Okay. Now moving to the next problem. The ligand orbital symmetries that are matched with the metal orbital symmetry in the symmetries in the octahedral complexes are. So guys, this problem is based on ligand field theory. Okay. If you have learned that ligand field theory correctly, then obviously you will answer that your T1U would be T1U and T2G. They are ligand orbital symmetry in that case. Okay. So what it means actually, see, if you want to know, if I am saying that T1U, U stands for the ungirate. So orbital which are not having the center of symmetry. So which orbital will not have the center of symmetry? Obviously your Px, your Py and your Pz. Okay. Say wait, what I can do, I can delete them all. Say this is my Px, this is plus, this is minus. Okay. Then this is my Py, this is plus, this is minus. And say this is my Pz, this is plus, this is minus. So it is they are not having the center of symmetry, that means they are the ungirate one. First of all, you should remember this thing. Okay. And when I am saying that the T2G orbitals, so T2G orbital means dxy, dyz and dzx. They all are having center of symmetry, that is I. So quickly you can see here, say this is your dxy. So this is plus, this is plus, this is minus, this is minus. So if you move from here to here, so you are finding the positive, and again you are finding the negative. They are having the center of symmetry in that case. So your T2G actually is your dxy, dxz, dyz, and T1U your px, py and pz, and your T1G and T2U group, they are these groups of orbitals for the ligand, they don't match with the symmetry of any kind. So basically you see this and this, they cannot match the symmetry of any kind. So you can cross them all. Okay, this one. and T1G, T2G both are G-rad, not possible, and G-rad and G-rad, this is not possible, G-rad and G-rad, G-rad, this is not possible. So option C is the correct option. But again, see, it depends. It actually based on your memory. If you had learned the ligand field theory in detail, only then you will be able to answer such questions. Otherwise, it is very difficult to answer such kind of the questions for you. Now moving to the next problem, what it says. Tetracarbonyl nickel complex, the sigma donation and the pi acceptance occurs utilizing the ligand's molecular orbital. Again, you see it's again the problem based on your molecular orbital theory, or you can say the ligand field theory. Again, see, it's a memory based question, and if you learn those things, then it is quite easy, right? It would be easy if you have already learned these things, right? So what happens? Later on I'll reply with the correct answer, or see, after giving a one statement you will be able to mark your own, right, the correct answer. The sigma donation takes place from the ligand's sigma orbital, right, ligand sigma orbital, and the pi acceptance takes place in the pi antibonding molecular orbital. So in that case, you can see this is looking the correct one. Okay, sigma donation, so this sigma bond, okay, filled sigma orbital, and see, pi acceptance whenever you having the empty pi antibonding molecular orbital. Okay, now moving to the next problem. In presence of pi donor and pi acceptor ligands, the energy of the metal T2G orbitals gets, okay, this problem I have already solved for you. Okay, in that case, the energy of the metal T2G orbitals gets, so whether increased or decreased, what happens in that case, right? So there may be the two cases. Say whenever you have the pi donor, that means in that case actually the metal's T2G orbital will increase. And in my few slides back I already told you, whenever your pi acceptor ligands are there, so metal T2G orbital donate electron to this one. Okay, and when this donation occurs, so the energy of the T2G orbitals gets lowered. I have solved this problem 2 times, right? So the energy of this decrease, so this should be decreased, this should be increased. Okay, so option A is looking the correct option in that case. Okay, I'm not going to draw the diagram for this one, but I am giving you the idea how to visualize the things actually. Okay, this cannot be your answer because you have learned this cannot be your answer, this cannot be your answer, you left with only this one. So at least if you don't know about your pi donor, okay, and then definitely for this pi acceptor you have idea when pi acceptance occurs through the metal T2G orbital, so the metal's T2G orbital's energy gets lowered actually. In that manner you can answer this particular question. Okay, but again it's a very important question. Now moving to the next problem, what it says, the power of the, okay, this question actually is from the kinetics. I don't know why it is here. So definitely it is there from the reaction mechanism part. Okay, and you can simply mark this option A as the correct option, the power of the reactant concentration in the differential equation. So this is the question of your kinetics actually, not directly from your coordination chemistry. Now moving to the next problem. The amount of energy delta O for an octahedral complex in pi donor ligand field. Again guys, you see, if you have learned that ligand field theory, then it is very easy to answer, otherwise it is quite difficult. So see, listen carefully what I am trying to explain in that case. Okay, see, it is not possible to possible for me to write each and everything here, but you can listen carefully what I am trying to explain actually, right? So basically the value of the delta O, okay, in an octahedral field, definitely when I am writing O, it is for octahedral field. Okay, so the value of the delta O for an octahedral complex in the pi donor ligand field is smaller, okay, than the value of the delta O in the complex of the only sigma donor ligand fielding environment. So you can have two environment, sigma donor ligand, okay, and then you are having next is your pi donor ligand. So you can have these two environment, pi donor and your sigma donor. So what will happen in case of the pi donor? So the ligand field is smaller. Okay, in that case, this value is smaller. Okay, and see, in case of the pi donor ligand environment, the energy of the ligand orbital is lower. So ligand's orbital energy would be lower. Okay, because these are the filled orbitals actually. That's why it is lowered in nature. Okay, and the separation between T2G antibonding and EG antibonding, they are very low also. So only this much I can write here actually, right? So based on these three things, you can blindly mark delta O is greater. No, I am not saying that it is greater. I already told you it is lower. Okay, so this cannot be your answer. C can be your answer, D cannot be your answer. So in pi donor ligand environment, delta O would be smaller than the delta O in the complex and sigma donor. So this actually option C is looking the correct answer in that case. But again, you see, it's, this question is based on your theory actually. Now moving to the next one. Which of the following sets of the orbitals is responsible for the T2G symmetry? Guys, it's quite simple problem. So there is no need to waste much time in this. dxy, dyz, dzx. See, G stands for G-rad. G-rad means the orbitals must have the center of inversion or center of symmetry, that is I. And you know this, they are not having the I. They are also not having the I. They are not also having the I. But dx, dy, dz, they are having the I. See, I told you here. See, if I go back, somewhere I solved this, right? This example you can see here. Okay, this one I have solved you dxy, dyz, right? So correct answer is in that case is, sorry, right, this option D is the correct answer in that case. Now moving to the next problem, what it says, the reaction of the blue colored hexa aqua copper 2 ion with ammonia produces the octahedral complex more intense blue. Okay, this is simply a substitution reaction. It's simply a substitution reaction. Okay, and you know what happens actually. See, when you say, I can write the reaction here. Say you were earlier having CuH2O times 6, 2 positive is there, and you are reacting this with ammonia. So this ammonia will substitute one of the water molecule, 2 of the water molecule from there, sorry, 4 of the water molecule from there, and you will have Cu NH3 times 4 and 2 times of H2O, copper is in 2 positive, plus 4 of H2O. This is the complex actually, right? So and this is the example of your substitution reaction, where actually 4 of your ammonia substituting 4 of your water molecule. Now moving to the next problem. The incorrect statement of the following is, okay, again the question is based on the ligand field theory and you have to identify the incorrect statement. So I can read the question fast actually. Increasing ligand field stabilization energy increases the inertness. Okay, definitely it's a true. This is true. When your LFSE increases, remember this point, okay, then the inertness of the nature will also increases. So this is the true. Complexes of the D10 ions are normally, no, this is false. See, whenever you are having the D10 ions, that means you are having 10 electrons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So Eg orbitals are filled. When Eg orbitals are filled, then your complexes would be labile, but it is saying inert. So this should be your correct answer. Okay, option B is the correct answer. This is the incorrect statement. while you see the second and third row transition, they are actually they form the more inert complex due to the diffused d orbital size. D orbitals are bigger and diffuse, and due to this actually ligand field splitting is quite high in that case. Okay, when ligand field splitting is quite high, ligands approaches more close to the metal, so they would pairing occur in the orbitals. In that case actually the inert complexes will result. So this is also true. And octahedral metal complex D3 is actually, see, D3 and D6 low spin. See what it means actually. Say this is where D3 low spin, 1 2 3, and it is where D6 low spin, 1 2 3 4 5 6. So in both the cases Eg orbitals are empty, that means they, in both the cases they are inert. So it is also true. So the only incorrect statement is the option number 2, option B. Okay, now moving to the next problem. What it says, the correct statement regarding the thermodynamic stability and unstability, kinetic lability and inertness of the okay guys, you can see in that case, again you see what I am telling you in that case. Say for example you are having nickel 2 positive, Ni 2 positive, that means 26 electron which belongs to 3d8 system. Next is your iron which is in 3 positive. So you know the cobalt is in +2, nickel is in +2 and iron is in +3, and when iron is in +3 it simply means it is having the 23 electron, and when it is having the 23 electrons, the 3d5 system. And you know when it is the, see, cyanide is the strong ligand in that case, right? Cyanide is the strong ligand. So in that case if you do the splitting, so you will fill the 8 electrons, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So this complex is actually your labile. Kinetic labile means it will react faster. Okay, and see this H2O, and they are this, it is the weak field. So when it is in weak field and you have to fill the 5 electrons, 1 2 3 4 and 5, again Eg having the electron, it is also labile. So the both complexes are labile. So check this option whether it is given or not. Both the complexes are thermodynamic stable and kinetically labile. Yes, both are kinetically labile, right? And when both are kinetically labile, then you can blindly mark this as the correct option. There is no need to go further actually. Okay, so only see, if you solve only this much of thing, then you will be able to solve such kind of the question. And you know the thermodynamic stability is something different, which is based on the stability constant, right, and stepwise stability constant, and the data is not given for them here, and there is no need to learn it actually. This question is a tricky question, and you have to you will solve this question by only actually identifying the inertness, kinetically labilence or kinetically inertness of nature of the ligands. Okay, now moving to the next problem. The correct order of rate of water exchange reaction. Now this question is actually theoretical question, and I have solved this question in my previous lecture series also. So in that case you can see here you have been given the different options in that case. So first of all you have to mark the oxidation states. Say chromium +2, chromium +3, manganese +2, and it is in +2. Okay, only Cr3 positive is actually having the higher value in that case. Okay, so now what happens actually, see, listen carefully what I am saying actually. It is not possible to for me to write, right? See, whenever the water exchange reaction occurs in the octahedral transition complexes, the d electron configurations are very, very important in that case, because see, crystal field stabilization energy will affect, see, in the simply you see CFSE affects reaction rates of water exchange reaction. Water exchange reaction, this you have to know, right? See, for chromium 3 positive ion, if you are having the chromium 3 positive ion, so it will have a very slow exchange. It will have a very slow exchange, right? Why? Because it's a 3D configuration, and 3D configuration means you are having 3 electrons here, right? No electrons in the Eg orbital, so it's inert one. When it is inert, so the for 3 Cr3 positive, the rate would be very slow. Now check in which option actually the slowest rate is given for. See, it is given for slowest rate for this one. This cannot be your correct answer. Okay, this could be your answer. This could be, but this could be your answer. This cannot be your answer. So you have to select between B and C, right? So now this is clear, I think. Now moving to the next one. See, basically the rate of the substitution reaction decreases across the series. For example, you are having chromium 2 positive ion and manganese 2 positive ion and your iron 2 positive ion. And if you see your chromium, manganese and iron, so it is 24, 25 and 26. So across the period, when you move across the period, right, so your substitution rate decreases. Your substitution rate decreases. Why it is decreases? Because the effective nuclear charge across the series increases. Okay, and when the effective nuclear charge increases, what happens actually? This bond will become stronger, strong bond, okay, due to this one. So you see, least for this one, and after that Cr2 positive would be there, okay. So after that, sorry, greatest for this one and this one. So after your this chromium 3 positive ion, there should be your iron, okay, and you see chromium 3 positive is here and iron is there. After that your manganese is there, okay. So option B is the correct answer in that case. You can mark the option B as the correct option, okay. Now moving to the next problem, what it says: which of the following electronic configuration is for inert octahedral complex? Okay, you can blindly mark this option D as the correct option. Why option D is the correct option in that case? I told you, whenever you are not finding the electrons in the Eg orbital, it simply means the inert complexes, okay. Now moving to the next problem, what it says, and probably this is my last problem, and in this lecture I have solved the 30 problems for you, 30 problems for you, and in the next lecture I will solve another 30 to 32 problems, and this will complete my 150 question series in the coordination chemistry, okay. So now my last problem is what it says actually. You see here, under strongly basic conditions, okay, you are having the strong base. The first step in the mechanism for the base catalyzed substitution of Cl negative by OH in this one, what it simply means actually, right? It's quite easy problem. CONH3 whole 5 Cl, and you have been given 2 positive over there, okay, and you are reacting this with OH negative, right, and definitely this is a strong basic nature, right. This reaction is going on actually. So what will happen? Substitution of see, in that case what will happen in the first step of the reaction? This one, chloride by OH substitution, you know, whether it is possible or not. No, it is not possible. I have explained this in the reaction mechanism part, okay. And then you can go dissociation of chloride. No, this penta, this is actually not possible. This penta carbocation and see, this pentavalent species does not form in this condition actually. Formation of, yes, this is quite possible in that case. What will happen actually? You see this OH negative which is there, it abstract one of the hydrogen from this one and get neutralized, and you will have NH2 negative in that case. This is the first step. I have explained these things in pretty much detail in my lecture series, okay. You can go there and learn the things from there. So your correct option is looking here, option number 3. Okay, option C is the correct option. So basically in the base catalyzed substitution of the chloride by hydroxide ion in this particular complex under strongly basic conditions, the first steps involve the removal of the hydrogen from the ammonia ligand, right? Because ammonia is actually, you see, it loses actually the proton actually. It's a base actually in that case, Bronsted acid, not base actually, right? And this will result in the formation of the conjugate base NH2 negative. Okay, so this is if you want then you can write in that manner, NH3 OH negative ऐसे बनाते हैं, right? And then NH2 negative plus H3O positive. Okay, so it's a proton donor, so it is acid. It's a proton donor. Okay, and it is acceptor base. So this is acid. No, this could be base. This is acid. So basically, conjugate acid base pair is forming, right? That means option C is the correct option. So this is how you can solve the problem based on this one. I hope you like the lecture. If you like the lecture, please share the tetrahedron chemistry classes with your friends also. If you are new viewer and watching video for the first time, please like the video and share with your friends this tetrahedron chemistry classes, and go through my playlist which I have made exclusively for the CSIR NET and the GATE examination. Okay, so that's it for this particular lecture. Meet you in the next lecture, guys. Thank you very much.